Jack White is a national treasure. The White Stripes, the Raconteurs, the Dead Weather, third man, label boss, record producer, and solo artist releasing his third album, Boarding House Reach, out today. Jack White joins me here at the Village Studios in West LA for KCRW. Hello, Jack.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine after that nice introduction. Thank you for the complimentary words.
The last time I saw you in person was actually here at the Village, coincidentally. A little over a year ago, it was Grammy Week, and the producer and engineer wing of the Recording Academy was honoring you with the President's Merit Award, which sounds very special. But maybe to start, can you reflect on that award and what it meant to you?
Well, those guys owed me a lot of money, and there's a little thing called blackmail and extortion, and that is how awards are won. I'm not so sure what was going on with that, but I'm very, very grateful for them to bestow upon me something like that. It was a nice pat on the back. It felt very nice. It's sort of funny because a lot of the productions I do are very I guess under the radar. There's sort of a lot of 45s, B-sides, bands coming into Third Man Records in Nashville that aren't very well known. There are not a lot of huge projects that are magazine cover kind of things.
Right.
So it was very nice of them to know that that stuff kind of exists. You know, sometimes you think a lot of that stuff is very under the radar, but some of them were paying attention, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that event brings together the community of people behind the scenes. These are the people that make the records and tweak knobs for hours and spend a lot of time in studios.
Yes.
As a producer yourself and the producer of this album, your own album, tell us about your approach on Boarding House Reach. Going into it, how did you set the scene for writing and recording this album?
I rented an apartment where I had the same equipment I had when I was 15, the same TAC 4-track Tascam mixer, and I became the engineer again. And it was just me in there by myself. And a lot of these bizarre muscle memory things would come out. I would be pressing record and pause at the same time, the two buttons, and tweaking a level on the needle. And it was sort of, wow, I haven't done that move in 25 years. And I'm just, knee-jerk knew how to do that still. It really it solidified my belief in muscle memory, which comes along with when you're in your bedroom recording as a teenager. If you've been that person like I was, that you try so hard to get these sounds, and you don't have the right equipment, you don't have the right microphones, and you're trying to learn, and you're trying your best. And I was back in that spot again, which was very nice to be. It really was a great genesis for all the songs that come out on this album.
You must have access to everything available in terms of instruments and technology. Why would you kind of isolate yourself? Is it just about kind of getting back to that place as a young musician?
I'm a big believer that excess and your ability and things at your disposal are probably not always a good thing. They're not always as your dream scenario when you're younger is like, God, if I just had a Stratocaster, this would sound so much better. If I just had this mic, it would sound so much better. But as I learned again, what I was doing was those cheap microphones, the cheap equipment I had was very important to getting the sound of the soulfulness of what you're trying to put down. And it doesn't matter about the microphone. An SM58 can be just as powerful as a U47, the supposed greatest mic ever made. You can do incredible things with that stuff, but you have to really know why you're doing it. And now you don't even really need to know what you're doing. You need to know why you're doing it. You can be very bad at twiddling the knobs and the faders and all that, but if you know why you're doing it, your attitude is a very much large part of the game.
Listening to this album, it strikes me as adventurous with unexpected turns. When an artist in your position may not have to take these kinds of chances. There's funk, there's jazz, there's hip hop influences here, along with the bristling guitar rock that people know you for. And many contributors to the record are from these diverse music scenes. I want to ask you about the players. Who did you recruit to help you realize this album?
My hope was that players from the hip hop world that play live on stage, the people that back up Jay-Z or Kanye West live, would be interested in recording because I was interested in musicians that would be able to replicate live on stage with instruments what's used as samples or drum machine drum beats on recordings, and that's a special type of talent. So I was hoping to get as many of those people involved as possible, and we got lucky. A lot of people were really open to the idea of coming in and just working cold as as strangers together, and we really got to new places because I didn't know them, they didn't know me, and they didn't know what we were going to record, and so the things I threw out, we worked on very quickly, and so the recordings themselves happened very quickly in a couple days, and the editing I took back to Nashville and edited for months and worked diligently on that. So that was very interesting and a whole new way of making an album for me.
Were these some of the people you met while contributing to Tribe Called Quest and Beyonce's records as well?
There were people that I had heard of and names I'd seen, and I was also looking through YouTube at clips and sort of saying, "Who's that guy?" and "Who's that guy?"
Mm,
and asking around.
mm.
I know I asked Q-Tip, "Who's the best drummer in New York, you think?" And he said Louis Cato, and I asked Louis, "Could you come down and drum?" And he came down. It was wonderful.
Hmm.
He plays on the band and Colbert Show now as well too, but he plays bass. So when what Q-Tip recommending him was enough for me. I didn't even have to go even listen to anything he'd done. I took his word for it, and he was right. You guy was incredible.
Hmm. Okay, I want to ask you about a couple songs from the album specifically, starting with Ice Station Zebra
Hmm.
for one. And I could read you my notes
Hmm.
on reaction, and they may not make any sense, but I wrote down shifting wildly from hip hop breakbeats to jazz flourishes. Vocal has a rap cadence, stretches out into more of a funk groove before it tightens up for the finish.
Mm. I agree with you. Yeah.
But tell us more about that
That's
song,
a wild
or
song. Yeah,
yeah.
I had done the beginning part of the song. I had done all the instruments myself. I think that's the only song on the record where I really on the album when I really do that. And that was because I sent that to Jay-Z. I thought, what do you think of this rhythm and this idea when we were working on tracks for an album we were going to do together? That album never happened, but that song had still lingered around. I kind of thought that's something interesting about that. Let me play it for these guys in New York and for these guys in LA and see if it inspires them in some way. Because it had a melody, it had a rhythm. The song, it was a song already. It didn't have any vocals. And let's see if they add something to it that makes it come alive. And they really did bring it alive. They brought it into a whole new place and took it to 6 different places. Really,
Hmm.
it was a difficult song to edit. I really had to 30 minutes of music to really edit down into something that was 3 or 4 minutes long. So that was inspiring for me, though.
Do you often bounce demos off of people that you respect just to get reactions? And
Um, My children, they're any kids will be completely honest with you. They don't lie about music. If they like something, they like it. They're not lying to you. So I love listening to the music in the car, and my kids will say something like, "Oh, I like that one," and it's very strange the things that they like. I don't understand it at all.
the next song I want to ask you about, Respect Commander.
Yeah.
My notes here: another wild ride, manic rhythm and guitar interplay, funny Trevor Horn style synth stabs as track builds until it dissolves into a dreamy haze. Intensity ramps up again with blazing guitar solo, leading us back to the percussion from the opening. Slow fade.
Yeah. It was a drum beat that I had recorded. I thought was an interesting sound. I had recorded like 10 seconds of it in my studio. Sometimes if you're setting things up in the studio, what's nice is I've set up a scenario where, hey, can you record this real quick? Because a lot of times I'll find when I'm walking into a room, if there's a piano there, the first thing I play is the most interesting thing. And if I pick up a guitar, the very first thing that comes out of my fingers without thinking about it
Mm.
is the most interesting thing. And if there's nobody there to record it, no way to record it, it sometimes will get lost because I'm too busy doing something else. So I got to go do this thing, clean out the garage or whatever. So it's nice in the studio where we have a setup where, hey, can you record this? And so that was a beat, that Respect Commander beat was one of those moments, recorded like 10, 15 seconds of it. Asked the band if they could play along with it. I wrote a riff to play with it. Can you add to this? So then it became, let's speed it up on computer. how fast can we speed this beat up where it can still humanly,
Yeah.
physically be played? And that was the challenge with that one. Can we still play along with it?
Interesting lyrically too, because it seems commander is the feminine.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, the female character is the one in control in the song, but I'm not big on pronouns. You know, they're sort of just like these placeholders. Like you have to use something. You know, he or she, but yeah, in that story, the female is the one who's in control, and the male character is the one, and it's sort of in a classic blues sense. I mean, a lot of the blues songs in the 20s and 30s are from a one man against the world standpoint. Whether it's Bessie Smith as a female or Blind Will Make Tell, it's a
Hmm.
one man versus the world.
Hmm.
And That's a nice viewpoint to have at when you're inventing these characters, when you're writing songs. They're never about me. They're always about this made up cartoon character almost.
Last thing I'm going to ask about is the album closer,
Mm,
Humoresque.
yeah, that's a wild one.
Begins as a simple lullaby, then slowly evolves into these expansive jazz chords,
Mm.
seems to reach for something deeper, more personal, and infinite.
Yeah, man, it's a strange, long, long story, but it came from me buying this sheet music that supposedly I was told, it was, which it is true. It was sheet music handwritten by Al Capone in Alcatraz that said humoresque at the top of it. I didn't know if he wrote this song or what it was. I brought it to New York, and Louis Cato and Neil Evans, who's here with us today, I said, "Can you guys read music?" And they said, "Yes." "Can you play this for me? I don't even know what this sounds like." And they played it. So that sounds familiar, but I don't know what this is. We started recording it, and the lady who worked at Sears Sound came in. She said, "Why are you playing Dvorak?" I said, "Is that what this is?" She goes, "Yeah, this is Humoresque by Dvorak." I said, "Well, what about the lyrics?" She goes, "No, Humoresque is a classical piece. There's no lyrics." So I was like, "What happened? Did Al Capone write lyrics to a classical piece?" Did a lot of research and found out a lot of people in Tin Pan Alley, 1930s sheet music era, tried stabs at writing lyrics for this classical piece to try to make it into a pop song.
Hmm.
Apparently, Al Capone remembered one of them in Alcatraz and wrote it down from memory
Hmm.
onto sheet music.
Hmm.
He had a band in Alcatraz called the Rock Islanders with Machine Gun Kelly on drums, if you can believe that. And so, anyways, this all came out of this. And then what Lewis and Neil had put in, and then that made into that beautiful jazz ending, was just one of the most beautiful endings I've been a part of, or the song I've been a part of. I actually didn't play any instruments on this song, so I just love it. And I told my mother, you're not gonna like this album. This is a strange album, but there's one song on here I put on here for you.
So I know these shows this week are the first for you in several years.
Mm.
I know from seeing you live many times that you put a lot of attention towards the aesthetic
Mm.
of your shows. And I remember with your solo debut, Blunderbuss, you had two bands on tour, one all male, one all female, and
Mhm.
the story went that you would decide basically the show day which
Mhm.
band you wanted to play with.
Mm.
What are you planning, if you do know now, what are you planning in support of this album?
All two bands, one all penguins and one all raccoons. I refer to the raccoons as trash pandas too. So we'll see what happens. I don't think they can play instruments very well, but it should be entertaining.
I won't miss it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us on KCRW. Much respect to you and much success with the new album. Jack White, our guest on KCRW.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.